Hi, you guys. Welcome to our live event. My name is Brenda K.B. Anderson, and I'm very excited today to show you guys my latest design. It's called the Autumn Glow Cowl. This is what it looks like. It's a very highly textured cowl with cables and bobbles, and it's nice and rustic and woolly. When I was working on this design, I was thinking about all the things about autumn that really inspire me. Just hot apple cider and just the rustic, woolly feelings, going through the forest, tree bark, leaves, just the way that the light looks in the fall. It's just a different feeling. And so I was thinking about that and choosing my yarn and my design to sort of reflect that feeling. And that's what this is all about today, the Autumn Glow Cowl. So of course, this is a live event, and I just want to make sure that you guys know that you can say hi, you can ask any questions, you can leave suggestions in the chat. I'll be checking that throughout this event so that I can answer any questions you might have. Or if you have suggestions for future live events, I love it when people throw those into the chat as well. But definitely if there's anything that isn't clear to you or you have any questions about anything, definitely drop that in the chat, and I'll be going through that throughout this live event. All right, so let's start by talking about our materials. First of all, you're going to need your pattern download. This is a free download for everyone, and this has complete directions with some photos in it for how to make this cowl. You can always access this later. You don't have to do it right this minute if you don't feel like it. It's always going to be available. You can watch the live event later if you need to. That's all going to be available, later on. So you'll need that, you'll need your download, you'll need also some yarn, and I'm going to be using this. I think this is technically a worsted weight. Let me see what they called it. It's really in between a worsted and a bulky, I feel like. Heavy worsted, Aran weight yarn. Okay, so this is just a slightly thicker slightly thicker worsted weight yarn, an Aran weight, and so it's just a little bit thicker than most of the yarns that you might find in the big box store. It's kind of like the thicker end of those yarns that we oftentimes use for Afghans and things like that. Here in the U.S. anyway, it's one of the most prevalent yarn weights that we have. But also, I wanted to point out that this is this is a one ply, and it gets thicker and thinner as you go. So blocking this project will be really beneficial later, kind of evens things out a little bit. But it sort of adds to the rustic charm of this piece. I particularly like using one ply yarns for making cables because I feel like it really makes the cables pop, especially in crochet cables. So that's why I chose the one ply, but you don't need to use a one ply. You can use, applied yarn. That works fine too. Just maybe do a swatch just to see if you like the fabric. Another bonus of using those one ply yarns, besides just how it looks, is oftentimes it has a little bit less of a twist to it, and so it feels a little bit more drapey. And when you're making crochet cables, they can be pretty thick and dense. And then the one ply yarn, the sort of drapiness of that type of yarn kind of helps the fabric relax a little bit. But that is one of the things too. You can always, just after you block whatever it is that you're using, whatever yarn it is, it'll soften up a little bit too. So something to think about though. All right, so you need, let me see, this is just so sized in one size, but I'll be talking a little bit about how to change the size if you would like to. So you'll need about 330 yards or 302 meters of yarn. And so I ended up using, it's about a ball and a half, or maybe like a ball and 3/4, not quite 2 balls of yarn for this cowl. You will also need, of course, a crochet hook. I'm going to be using an eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter hook, but you will use whatever you need to in order to get the correct gauge. So that way you can make sure your cowl is going to turn out the size that you think it will. And then you'll need a removable stitch marker and a yarn needle. And that's it. Not a lot of supplies here, so it keeps it simple, which is great. All right. Okay, so we're going to start out by working up the ribbing from the top of the cowl. Well, first let me talk just a little bit about the construction of the cowl. So the cowl is made, you start actually at the top of the cowl, so here, and we're going to work back and forth and turn rows, and we're going to make a very long strip. We're going to turn that strip into sort of a tube shape or a circle shape, and then we're going to start working into the edge of that ribbing that we made and we're going to be working in the round to create the cables and the bobbles as we go. So we're going to continue working. When we get towards the end, we're going to make some increases because I really wanted this cowl to flare out just a little bit at the bottom, because it drives me nuts when you put a cowl over your head and then it looks kind of bunchy on the bottom and it doesn't want to just kind of sit right on your shoulders. So I added just a little bit of extra width at the bottom of the cowl here. And then after we do that, we are going to make ribbing again, but this time it's going to be a join as you go ribbing, which is fun. So we'll get into that as we work through our cowl. All right, so we're going to start out with a foundation chain of 5. We're just going to chain 5. So I'll place that slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to chain 5 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we are going to start working back and forth in those turn rows, and we're going to be working in a stitch pattern that is a variation of a slip stitch. So if you take a look at this chain here, we've got a bunch of V's going in this direction, right? A bunch of V's all stacked up. If we roll that over so the V's are on the table, you can see all those little horizontal dashes on the back. We're going to work underneath those horizontal dashes. So we're going to skip the first one because that turning chain is not going to count as a stitch here. And we're going to make a yarn over. And we're going to insert our hook into that first horizontal stitch. Well, it's actually the second one because we skipped the first one. Then we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to pinch here right at the base, and then we're going to continue pulling that loop through the 2 loops on our hook. So that's making a yarn over slip stitch. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to pull that loop through the 2 loops on our hook. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, continue pulling that loop through the 2 loops on your hook. We'll do that one more time. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up. And I always like to pinch my fabric right here because it helps me hold everything steady as I pull that loop through those 2 loops on the hook. All right, so if you've never done this stitch before, I would highly recommend just really slowing it down when you first begin, because it's very similar motions to a half double crochet, but there's 1 fewer yarn over. So you need to make sure you're not accidentally doing a half double crochet. All right, so when you get to the end, we're going to chain 1, and you can chain 1 pretty tightly. It looks better if you chain it pretty tightly. You're never going to work into that turning chain, so don't worry about that. Then we're going to turn our work just like this. We're turning a page in the book, and then we're going to work across the edges of the top of our stitches. But this time, instead of normally when we crochet, we work underneath both loops of the stitch. We insert our hook here, but this time we're going to insert our hook just under the back loops, so underneath these loops. We're just going to ignore the ones in the front. All right, we're skipping that turning chain we made, and we're going to yarn over, insert through the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, pinch, and pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, pinch, and pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, pinch, and pull through 2. All right, we've reached the end. Let's do that again. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work like we're turning a page in a book, and we are going to work into the back loop of those V's. Now, this might be a little bit hard to tell if these are the V's or if these are the V's. But just know when you're working in turned rows, after you've just turned a row, your V's should be facing in this direction, okay? You can see how these V's right here, those were created on the back of our stitches that we did in the last row. So those V's are facing this way. So this is not the back loop here. You need to look at the top of your stitches. Those are the back loops there. Just want to make sure everybody knows where to work in, because it can be kind of confusing with all these V's flying around here. All right, so we're just doing that yarn over slip stitch, working it into that back loop all the way across. You'll do your 4 stitches, chain 1, turn, and then you'll do it again. Okay, so you're going to go back and forth for a very long time until you've done 80 rows. Okay, I'm actually going to be doing a smaller sample here today, so you don't have to get too bored while I'm doing all these stitches. And let's see here, we'll pull this out. So this is what half of it will look like. So we've got 40 rows here, so your strip would be twice as long as that, okay? So it would go all the way around the cowl. And when you're counting your rows, I just want to make sure you know how to do that. You can see that there's these ridges here, especially if you stretch it out a little. You can see there's a ridge there, and a groove, and a ridge, and a groove, and a ridge, and a groove. Each one of those is a row. So this starts out with a groove here, so that's 1 row, 2 rows, and you can count by 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. So I've got 40 here. And let me just pop my hook back on. Let's see. All right. So I've just finished up my 40th row. You would be finishing up your 80th row, and then you can chain 1 and turn just like you're going to work another row. And then you're going to take the foundation chain edge, which is the edge that has the little yarn tail. You're going to bring that right up in front of the row that you just worked, and you're going to slip stitch them together. So that, and we're going to be working through just the back loops of each edge, okay? So just the back loop here, and then the back loop here. So I'm going to insert through the back loop of the row in front, and then directly through the back loop of the row in back. And we're going to grab that yarn and pull through and pull through. Let's do that again. Back loop, grab the yarn, pull through, back loop, grab that yarn, pull through, and through the loop on the hook. There we go. Okay, so we've slip stitched all the way across, and then we're going to turn our work so we have the right side facing out. Okay, so the side that was the sides that were held together here as we did the stitching, those are going to be the right side of our cowl. So we're going to flip that out. And remember, you have a much larger opening here because I'm just doing half the amount of stitches that we need here. And then at this point, we're going to start working into the edges of our rows. And the cool thing about going from this yarn over slip stitch pattern to the next stitch pattern, which is going to be extended single crochet, is that it just perfectly mathematically works out to be the right amount of stitches if you stitch into the ridge and into the groove and into the stitch, or into the ridge and into the groove, okay? So see these ridges here, there's a ridge, there's a ridge, there's a ridge, and then there's grooves between them. Each one of those things is going to get a stitch. So we're going to start out here. I'm going to place my hook right there in that first ridge, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 stitch, and yarn over and pull through 2. That's an extended single crochet. And I would recommend marking that stitch just so that when you come all the way around, you recognize where you started. So we're going to place a stitch marker in there. And now we're going to make extended single crochets into each row. Okay, so here's the next row. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. That's an extended single crochet. Here's our next ridge here. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, we're just going to continue that, working that all the way around our whole cowl. And if you've never worked into the edges of your rows before, it might be a little bit like, hey, where am I supposed to put my hook? Normally we're used to knowing exactly where to put your hook because there's a stitch there, right? What I'm looking for here, I like to go underneath this one strand here. Normally when I'm doing this kind of thing and working across the ends of my rows, usually I try to go under 2 strands, but when you do that here, it kind of creates a hole underneath it. So I actually prefer to go underneath just this 1 strand here. There is no wrong place to put it. You just have to add your stitch and then see if it looks okay. And then if it looks okay, you just leave it there. But when you're going through these ridges, you can see how there's all those little V's all stacked up. If you insert your hook right into the top of that last V, and then you make your extended single crochet, it really looks like you made a continuation of that line. It's just seamless there. It looks really, really good. So that's another reason that I really love using the yarn over slip stitch through the back loop only. stitch pattern to make ribbing. Not only is it incredibly stretchy, it's like very, very stretchy, and it bounces back more than a lot of the other crochet ribbings do. But also it just makes it easy to transition between the edge of the ribbing and then whatever fabric you're working in. And I do often use extended single crochet a lot especially in my cable work designs, because it makes a really flat, stretchy, drapey fabric, and I feel like it really offsets the sort of texture and the raised post stitches of the cables. So another bonus too of the extended single crochet and using that for the background is that stitch pattern really orients itself straight up, and it doesn't lean to the side like most crochet stitches do when you work them in the round. So that keeps your cables from kind of skewing off to the side. If you've ever had that problem before when you're working in the round, it's because every time you make a round, your stitches kind of go further and further and further to the right if you're a right-handed stitcher, or further and further to the left if you're a left-handed stitcher. So those extended single crochets really keep things straight up, and you can make really nice lines with your cables and not have to worry about them sort of twisting off to the side. All right, we are getting close to the end of our round here, filling this in with those extended single crochets. Vanessa is saying, is that a half double slip stitch? I'm guessing you're talking about the first stitch that I was doing. I call that a yarn over slip stitch, but it may also be called a half double slip stitch. It's possible. But because in crochet, it seems like almost every stitch has another second name that you don't find out about until after you've been calling it that for a very long time. It can be very confusing when you're trying to learn different stitches in crochet, because oftentimes there are stitches that are totally different stitches, but yet they have the same name, or they might be completely the same stitch and have different names. I can't say for sure half double slip stitch, it could be, but I would just say, go ahead and watch the steps of my stitch, and as long as you're following along with all those steps, you should be doing the right thing. But I'm going to be looking that up later to see if it also has another name called the half double slip stitch. Hello to Faith. Hi, South Carolina. Excellent. Let's see. Istabrak says, hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. And they're giving me a compliment. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you're here. Okay, so looks like I missed that V here. I'm going to try and move that over just a little bit. That looks a little better. And here is my very last extended single crochet, because I've reached my marker. And now we're going to start on working up that cable pattern. Now I want to point out, in your pattern download, all of the directions have been written out, step by step, but there's also a chart. I am a chart person. I really love being able to see a chart because it helps me orient like what stitch is attached to what stitch. So this is what I'm going to be working from here. We just did the setup round, which is down here. So these little kind of, upside down teardrop shape with the plus at the top, those are representing extended single crochets right there. And then here we are about to work round number 1 of our cable pattern. Okay, so we're going to start out with 3 extended single crochets. Then we're going to do 2 front post double crochets, another extended single crochet, and then 2 front post double crochets. And then we're going to repeat those 8 stitches over and over. So if you were thinking about, if you wanted to increase the width of this cowl or decrease the width of it, if you wanted to just sort of play around with the stitch pattern, just know that this is a multiple of 8. So if you wanted to add another repeat in there, you would add, 8 more. You would have to do 8 more rows of the yarn over slip stitch before you work that initial round of the extended single crochet, and then you'd have enough for 1 more repeat in there, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so here's our very first stitch of the round. You may notice I did not join at the end of the round. I just stopped after my extended single crochet. I'm not joining any of the ends of my rounds. I am just going to continue working around and around and around in a spiral, meaning no joins and no beginning chains there. All right, so here's the first stitch. We're going to do 3 extended single crochets. So 1 and 2 and 3, And then we're going to do 2 front. Watch this mirrored. Your cowl will end up as a reverse, like a mirror image of my cowl, but that will still be lovely. I think that's just the easiest way to learn it, and that way you don't have to worry about which side of the cable crosses over the other. It'll just be similar to what I'm doing here. Okay, so you're going to insert your hook around that stitch, the post of the stitch. You'll yarn over and pull up a loop. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do that again in the next stitch. So we yarn over, and we're going to insert our hook around the next stitch, the post of the next stitch, sorry. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do an extended single crochet in the next stitch, which is right here. So we're going to work that extended single crochet. And then we're going to do 2 more front post double crochets. So yarn over. And sometimes people get confused about which post they're supposed to be working around. Are we working here or are we working here? So this stitch has already been worked because the top of the stitch is right here. When you're working in the round, if you're a right-handed stitcher, the post will be ever so slightly to the left of where the top of the stitch is. See, this top of the stitch starts here and kind of goes over here. So that stitch has already been worked. And now we're going to work underneath or around the post of the next stitch. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll do that one more time. Okay, so you can start to see those post stitches want to kind of become raised on the fabric. It'll be a lot more obvious as we continue to work. I am just going to be repeating that same section. So I'm going to do 3 extended single crochets. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. Then I'm going to do 2 front post double crochets. So here's one, and here's the second one. And then another extended single crochet right here, and then 2 more front post double crochets. 1 and 2. And then we're going to do an extended single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches because we're making that repeat once again. And then 2 post stitches, so 2 front post double crochets, 1 and 2. Extended single crochet right here. And then 2 front post stitches, 1 and 2. And now we're going to make another repeat. So 1, 2, 3 extended single crochets. And then we'll do 2 front post double crochets, 1 and 2. An extended single crochet and 2 post stitches, 1 and 2. All right, we have one more repeat of that. So 1, 2, 3 extendeds, and then 2 front posts, 1 and 2, another extended, and then 2 front posts, 1 and 2. All right, so we've made it all the way around. Our next round is going to be round number 2, and you can see there's some kind of exciting things happening in the chart here. This little weird looking bubble, that's going to stand for our bobble that we're going to make. And then this section over here, this is how we are going to make those post stitches cross over each other. You can see on the chart, front post treble crochet, the symbol for that, if it's worked behind, is kind of a lighter gray. So it kind of is fading into the background a little bit. The darker one sits on top. That's the front post treble that's worked in front, and I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get to that. But I'm just pointing that out on the chart. If when you're looking at it, the fainter one is sitting behind, the darker one is going on top, okay? So here we're gonna work on round number 2. So we're gonna start out with an extended single crochet. Gonna remember to put my stitch marker back in there. And now we're gonna make a bobble. So to make a bobble, you're gonna yarn over and then insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. So you're making a double crochet here, but you're gonna stop before the end. And now you're gonna do that 4 more times. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. Okay, we're going to do that a couple more times. We do this a total of 5 times, and when you've done that, you'll have a total of 6 loops on your hook because you started with 1 loop on your hook. And then you're going to yarn over and bring that through all 6, okay? And then you're going to make an extended single crochet right here. And when I do that, I just bring my hook right over next to it and keep everything held nice and tight and make that extended single crochet right here. And I don't worry about the fact that my bobble looks all crunched, because after I make that extended single crochet, you want that extended single crochet to be fairly, just the same gauge as all the other ones, but it wants to stretch out because your hook is so far away. So you got to bring that down and make a regular sized extended single crochet, and then after that, you can use your finger and poke that bobble forward like that. Okay, then after you do that, this is when we're going to be working our post stitches. So here's 2 front post double crochets, then there's an extended single crochet right there, and then there's 2 more front post double crochets. So to do the cable crossing, we're going to yarn over twice because we're doing a front post treble. We're going to skip the first 2 post stitches, skip the extended single crochet stitch, and into the next front post, we're going to work that front post treble crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over twice, then we're going to work into the next post stitch. We're working around that post, just as we did on the previous round. So we've done 2 front post treble crochets, and you can see they're stretching over here to join up with those. And then behind that, if we pull this forward, we're going to keep our yarn over here to the right, and we're going to insert our hook in that middle stitch. That was the stitch where our extended single crochet is. If this is hard to figure out, like when you're first working on this, you can place a stitch marker in that extended single crochet and then push it to the back and look at it from back here, and you can see which stitch you're supposed to work into, just to kind of help you find the correct stitch, because I know it can look a little messy when you're looking at the back of your work. But another thing you can do is this post right here is attached to that stitch, okay, and you can count 2 back. Those were both worked into. The one before that is your extended single crochet. All right, so we're going to make an extended single crochet right in that stitch, and that's behind these 2 stitches we made. Okay, so that's different than if you were to push this out of the way and make one right here. So that would be working in front, but we're pulling that to the front and then we're working it behind. So there's our extended single crochet. And now we're going to go back and catch those 2 front posts that we skipped over already. So we're going to yarn over twice, and we're, excuse me, we're going to go into the first post stitch that we skipped and make a front post treble right there. And then we're going to yarn over twice and make a front post treble in the second one that we skipped. There we go. And now you can see they're crossing over each other because we did those stitches out of order. All right, so after all these posts, there's 3 extended single crochets. We're going to make an extended single crochet into the first one, and then we're going to make a bobble into the second one. So this is just as though we had made the bobble right at the beginning. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. And we're going to repeat that 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we've got 5 loops on the hook, and we'll bring that through all of those. And now we're going to come down here and make an extended single crochet in the next stitch. And so again, I just let my hook come right over next to it. I hold that pretty tightly as I make that extended single crochet, and then I pop the bobble out with my finger from behind there. All right, now we've made it to the post stitch section, and again, we're going to finish up this repeat. We're going to make those front post trebles. So yarn over twice, skip the next 3 stitches, work under the post that is in the second set of posts. So there's our front post treble, yarn over twice, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, now we got to go back here and work our extended single crochet in the extended single crochet that we skipped. And now we're going to go back and get those front posts that we skipped over in the beginning here. So we'll yarn over twice. I'm going underneath that first post, 1 and 2, whoops, and 3, yarn over twice. There's the second post we skipped, 1 and 2 and 3. Now we've already worked all of these stitches, and we're going to go to the next extended single crochet, which is right here. Make an extended single crochet, and we're going to repeat. So here's the bobble. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. And here's an extended single crochet in the next stitch. And then we yarn over twice, skip over the next 3. We're going to work a front post treble around that post stitch right there. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over twice. 1, 2, 3. Go back and get that extended single crochet. So you're always placing post stitches into post stitches and extended single crochets into extended single crochets. The only exception to that is every once in a while you're putting a bobble into an extended single crochet. And you're always going to be doing your bobble on the same round as you do this cable crossing round, okay? So when you're crossing over your cables, remember to do those bobbles. So here's our extended single crochet. Here's the middle extended single crochet, gets the bobble. 3, 4, 5. And we've got 6 loops on our hook. Pull through everything. We're going to make an extended single crochet right here and poke that bobble forward. And then we're going to make our cable crossing here. Vanessa says, I see that. I think they're talking about how everything has 2 different names, I think, what I was saying before. I enjoy the stitch, and I am wow that you are doing the extended single crochet. Yay, I love the extended single crochet. That stitch is one of my all-time favorites because it's so versatile. And it looks totally different when you do it in the round versus back and forth and turn rows. It's completely different. Oh, I think I just skipped. I gotta check. I think I might have skipped my extended single crochet. I did. So I'm gonna go back and grab that. And we'll do that front. So, back to the whole thing about things crossing over. I designed this so that it would be a simpler kind of cable for those if you've never done cable work ever before. If this was your first cabling project, I wanted this to be easy enough. So in this project, all of your cables are going to cross over in a way that makes things easier. So for example, even though you have to kind of pull those 2 forward to get to that extended single crochet back here, the next 2 stitches are going to be made on top. You're crossing over in front. There are ways to put your hook back behind things and make your cable cross in the other direction. But we are not doing that at all in this pattern. Okay, so here's those front post treble crochets. There's the first one and the second one. Those are the ones that we skipped at the beginning. All right, and now we're going to do extended single crochet right here, and then one of those bobble stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Draw through all 6 loops, and then make an extended single crochet right after. Poke the bobble forward. And then we're going to finish up with that cable crossing. So yarn over twice, skip the next 3 stitches, make a front post treble crochet in the following stitch, and a front post treble crochet in the next stitch. Go behind and work into the top of the stitch, making your extended single crochet. And then you're going to do a front post treble here in that first post stitch we skipped. And here in the second post stitch we skipped. Okay, so now we've made it all the way around to the beginning. And so on the next round, we are going to be working 3 extended single crochets, 2 front post double crochets, 1 extended single crochet, and 2 front post double crochets. So I just want to point out too, when you're working those post stitches, if it is a post stitch that's going straight up and down, we're doing front post double crochets. If it is a post stitch that has to reach over and lean making those crossing stitches, it's a front post treble crochet because we needed a slightly longer stitch there. So that is an easy way to kind of know which type of stitch you're doing as you're working your way around. If you know it has to cross, then you know it has to be a treble crochet. I mean, that's all written down, and it's also in your key here, but I just want to make sure that you know, it's simple enough in our minds. Alrighty, so here's our first extended single crochet of the round. I'm going to place that stitch marker back in, and then we're going to work an extended single crochet into that bobble stitch. It's right there. Another extended single crochet into the next stitch, right there. So we've got 3. And now we're going to do 2 front post double crochets. So now, because we crossed those over, the stitches are sort of hiding back behind here, and you may find it easier to see your stitches if you sort of help them, you know, cross over a little further and kind of pull on them just a little bit to see. We're still working around our posts, and we're doing a front post double crochet. So we yarn over, go around that first post, yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we'll do the next one. Yarn over, insert around the next post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then there's that extended single crochet, so we just work an extended single crochet there. And then the next 2 stitches get front post double crochets. Those are a little easier to see because they're sitting on top. Okay, let's do that one more time. So we have an extended single crochet, another extended single crochet to the top of that bobble, and here's the 3rd extended single crochet. And then we're going to do 2 front post double crochets. So those are kind of hiding a little here. Kind of have to dig around and look for them. It does get easier to recognize your stitches. You know, when you're first starting cable, sometimes it can be very confusing. Where's my stitch? Where's the top of the stitch? Where's the post of the stitch? How do these relate? But it does get easier as you continue working on cables. It will get more simple. Okay. All right, so you would just continue doing that all the way around. And you can see here on the chart, the next 2 rounds are identical. So 3 extended single crochets, 2 front post double crochets, extended single crochet, 2 front post double crochets, okay? And then you'd repeat that again. So when you're looking at this chart, there are 8 stitches across it. That means, you know, each stitch repeat is those 8 stitches. So you just keep repeating all the way around till you get to the end of your piece. Then you move up to the next round, okay? So we've just started working in, let's see, round number 3, and we're just going to continue repeating all the way around until you get to your stitch marker. Then you'll work round number 4 and repeat that all the way around, and then number 5, and you'll repeat that all the way around. And then you can see here that round number 6 is exactly the same as round number 2. They're exactly the same, and there's, you know, just a bunch of repeats that you're going to continue. So you're repeating this section over and over. It's a 4-round repeat, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 rounds will keep getting repeated as you go. Let me show you here. Let's see. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, so this is I just finished the round number 5 here. That's where we're at on my sample. And so you can see you would go down to round number 2 and repeat that whole section again. And so we're going to be doing that make a bobble cable crossing round. So I'm going to do that. I'll try to do that a little quicker this time since you guys kind of know, but this will be a little bit of review. So there's an extended single crochet here, and then we're going to make a bobble. And pull through all 6, extended single crochet. So your bobble is always going to be kind of trapped between 2 extended single crochet stitches. And then we're going to do that cable crossing round. See how the stitches are already kind of starting to, the ridges are showing up. It gets a little easier to see where you're supposed to go. So we're going to make that front post treble. And the second front post treble, go to the back and make that extended single crochet. And then you're going to go back and do the front post treble in the first post stitch that we skipped. and then a front post treble in the second post stitch that we skipped. And then you're going to jump over here to your extended single crochet section. So there's an extended single crochet, a bobble, yarn over, pull through 6, and an extended single crochet right after your bobble. Poke the bobble forward. And then here is our cable crossing round here. And we'll go to the back, get that extended single crochet, and then cross over the front and get those 2 post stitches that we skipped. So basically, when you're working on cables, most of the time you are creating those sort of ridges with post stitches, and most of the time when you want a cable to look like it's crossing over something, you are just doing those post stitches out of order. You know, you're skipping some and then you're going back to them later. And that's how you kind of create those twisting shapes that you find in cables. It looks really complicated, but once you start doing it and you get a little practice and you can start recognizing, you know, what post goes with the top of the stitch and that sort of thing, then it gets a lot easier. And if you are interested in learning more about these kinds of, you know, cable projects, specifically these little woolly cable projects that I like to do, I do teach a class that's available on the Creative Crochet Corner website and also on Craftsy. And we go through from a very simple project, very simple cable project, and then the next project is a little bit more intricate and has these really cool, unusual cables in it, and that's for a beanie. So I did put a link for that in your download if you are interested in learning a little more about that class. I think I might have one more repeat. 4 and 5. And here's my extended single crochet. Poke the bobble forward. And now I'm doing that cable crossing section. Front post treble, pull it to the front. I always count back 3 stitches and put my extended single crochet there. There we are. And one more repeat. And here's my extended single crochet and my cable crossing here. So one thing I want to point out, when you're making these longer stitches, it's easy for them to get a little stretched out. And if they're a little stretched out like this, that's okay. That's going to be covered up later. But you want to watch that first loop so it doesn't get too long. You don't want to have a big gap there. And the way you do that is you just keep the tension on your yarn here as you're making those yarn overs and as you're inserting your hook underneath, underneath that post. All right, so that's my last stitch of the round. And so you would just continue working repeats of this cable bobble situation until you have, let's see, you've got 4 full, like little cable loops, and that will lead you right down here. And after that last cable crossing round, I mean, there are specific instructions in the pattern that you can follow, but you'll just know you can count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you know you have stitched enough times around. And then we're going to do those increases that I had talked about earlier. So this is just to help the bottom of your cowl flare out just a little to sit on your shoulders. It really doesn't look like it does that much, but it has that extra stretch in it at the bottom. So it really does, help it sit a little bit better on your shoulders when you just kind of throw it on. Okay, so here's the beginning of my round. We're going to put an extended single crochet into the first stitch, just like normal. Nothing weird yet here. And then we're going to do 2 extended single crochets into the following. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to do 1 extended single crochet into the next stitch. Okay, so we just did 2 extended single crochets just underneath that bobble, okay, or on top of the bobble. And then, into the bobble stitch is really what we did. Then we're going to work our front post double crochets. So here's a front post stitch, 1 and 2. Well, let me make sure, I gotta check this real quick here. Yep, okay, just wanted to make sure we're still doing the post stitches here. Okay, so you're gonna work a front post double crochet into each of the next 2 double crochet, front post double crochets. Actually, those were treble crochets, but let me back up. Okay, so after you do your increase of your 2 extended single crochets, you do an extended single crochet into the next stitch, and then the following 2 stitches are front post double crochets worked into post stitches. And then you're going to do 2 extended single crochets into your extended single crochet, which is right there. And then you're going to do a front post double crochet into each of the next 2 post stitches, like that. So basically what you're doing is you're doing extended single crochets into all the stitches unless it's a post stitch. And the ones that get 2 extended single crochets are the stitches that are directly above the bobble. So when you're working into the bobble, like right here, we're going to do 2 extended single crochets. There's just an extended single crochet here. Here's my post stitches. I'm still working front post double crochets into the post stitches. So 1 and 2. And now we've gotten to an extended single crochet, and we're going to put 2 extended single crochets there. Okay, so the increases are going into the bobble and into the extended single crochet that's between the post stitches. And we're going to continue repeating this all the way around our cowl. So extended single crochet, 2 extended single crochets, whoops, another extended single crochet, front post double, front post double, extended single crochet, actually 2 extended single crochets here, front post double, and front post double, and repeat. Extended single crochet, 2 extended single crochets, 1 and 2, extended single crochet, front post double crochet, front post double crochet, 2 extended single crochets here in that extended single crochet stitch, and front post double, and front post double. All right, looks like we've got one more repeat. Extended single crochet, 2 extended single crochets, another extended single crochet, front post double, and front post double, and 2 extended single crochets here, 1 and 2, front post double, and front post double. All right, so we made it all the way around. We did those little increases of adding those extra extended single crochet stitches. And then at this point, this is when we're going to start working our ribbing, but we're going to join it as you go. So let's see here. This whole paragraph is what I'm going to be working on right now. So we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. We'll take our stitch marker out. We're going to make a slip stitch here. So that's the first stitch of the round. We're going to make a slip stitch there. And then we're going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to be working across our chain. We're going to be working down toward the cowl. So we're going to start by working in the bottom of the chain. This is just how we did before when we started the very beginning of the ribbing here. So we're going to skip that first one because that's just a turning chain. And then we're going to make a yarn over slip stitch. This is just like at the beginning. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull that through the 2 loops on the hook. So that's 1. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, that's 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, that's the 3rd one, and here's number 4. Okay, so we've worked our way back down toward the cowl. This is where we had done our slip stitch, so we're going to do 2 more slip stitches, 1 and 2 in the next 2 stitches. So slip stitch here and a slip stitch here, and those don't count as stitches. We're never going to work into those. We're just using those to kind of move our way around the cowl. So it's almost like a beginning chain or a turning chain. So we're going to turn our work like this, and then we're going to skip those 2 stitches we just made, those 2 slip stitches, and we're going to work yarn over slip stitches into the yarn over slip stitches, and we're going to work in the back loop. Okay, so the back loop, that's how we already did, we already did that. We already worked on that at the beginning when we were making our ribbing for the top. All right, so we've done 4 yarn over slip stitches through the back loop only, and we're going to do 1 tight chain. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to skip that turning chain and do yarn over slip stitches into the next 4 stitches. Yarn over slip stitch through the back loop only, I should say. So that's how it's going to be till we finish up this ribbing. It's always going to be into that back loop. And this one is a little trickier to find. You kind of have to dig around a little on that 4th one. So we've got 4 stitches. The last stitch we worked into is here. So we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Then we're going to turn our work, skipping those 2 slip stitches, and we're going to make yarn over slip stitches into the back loop of all of our yarn over slip stitches right here. And it helps me to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 every time so that I make sure that I'm getting all of the stitches. It can be a little bit hard to see, especially when you're on your way back down, which is what we're doing now. It can be a little hard to see that 4th one. So 1, 2, 3, got to kind of push it to the back there, 4. Okay, and if you're having trouble telling which stitch you've worked into, you can kind of pull up on it and see, oh, we have something attached into that stitch. We've already worked that one. So then we come over to the next 2, 1 and 2, like that. And we turn our work, skip those 2 slip stitches, and work yarn over slip stitches into the next 4 stitches on the way up. So this is a fun way to create a ribbing. You don't have to sew it on later. It allows for, that extra stretch at the bottom, which I like. If this is driving you crazy to be having your cowl flipping around in your lap, you can, or if it just seems more complicated than something that you'd like to do, I would say, give it a try. It may surprise you. It might not be as hard as you think. I really think that once you kind of realize where you're stitching and you get the rhythm down, it's really not hard. And since this is a small project, having it flipping around in your lap isn't too big of a deal. However, there is, of course, the option to just make your ribbing exactly as you had made your ribbing before. Only this time you're going to have to add more rows to it so that it can be a little bit wider so it fits the bottom of your cowl, because we did all those increases. We increased, let's see, let me think about this for a second. There should be 20 stitches. So you'd have to do, let's see, 100 rows. Okay, instead of at the beginning we did 80 rows. I mean, we really did 40. Let's not lie about it, but you should be doing 80 to begin your cowl, and then you should be doing 100 rows back and forth for the bottom of your cowl. Okay, so that way it has plenty of stretch and give, and it can sit on your shoulders and not kind of curl up and be annoying like sometimes happens. All right, so you're going to keep working this process all the way around your cowl, and your piece will look like this when you get very close to finishing here. Here we are. We've got maybe 1 or 2 more repeats to go here. So I'm going to be doing my yarn over slip stitches through the back loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2. And we'll turn our work, skipping those 2 slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to chain 1 and turn and work our way back down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 1 more stitch left. So we slip stitch into the stitch that we have left. Then we make another slip stitch into the very first slip stitch that we made. So at the beginning of adding the ribbing, it's right here. So we make a slip stitch there. Or you can, if you prefer, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can make it into that slip stitch, or you can make it into the stitch that your slip stitch was worked into. Doesn't make a difference. You just kind of need to anchor it there. And then you're going to repeat those 2 rows 1 more time. Okay, so skipping those 2 slip stitches, we're working those yarn over slip stitches up the ribbing. Make that tight chain, turn your work, and then we're going to be working those yarn over slip stitches down towards the cowl. 1, 2, 3, and here's our last stitch right there. All right, and then you can go ahead and just cut your yarn, and let's see, I would do another slip stitch into that same original slip stitch that you first made when you were making the ribbing. So you can slip stitch there to kind of anchor it a little better and then draw that through. If you missed that, it's fine. You don't really need to do that slip stitch, but it just helps it kind of bring your yarn tail kind of down into the bottom of this V shape here. All right, and then you are just going to stitch this up. You're going to sew those 2 edges together, and you can just butt them up. Butt up the edges like this, and then just do a little whip stitch here. And there should be 4 stitches, you know, 1 on each edge. So you don't have to pin it if you don't want to, just make sure you're matching them up. And I'm going underneath both loops of each edge here to make it nice and solid. Just like that. And pulling it pretty tight. And then you can go ahead and weave in your ends. So I really like to weave in my ends. If it's something that's going to, I know this is the bottom of the cowl, so it's probably going to get some stretch width-wise here. So I like to weave in my ends in a vertical way, so that way if it does get that kind of horizontal stretch, it's not popping the ends, you know, that I just wove in out of my work. It won't go anywhere, you know, because you're not actually stretching that strand of yarn. You're stretching the fabric this way, but your strand of yarn is oriented that way, so that makes it a little bit more likely to stay in there. Also, if you use the same kind of yarn or similar yarn, if it's feltable, you know, over time it'll just stick in there a little bit better. You could always do, sometimes I'll use like a needle felting tool to keep my yarn in place if I'm worried about it popping out, and I'm using a feltable yarn. There we go. Just weave that in, weave in your other tails. And I do want to point out the difference between a blocked cowl and a non-blocked cowl here. So here's my golden cowl. This one has been blocked. I wet blocked this. So what that means is I soaked it in water for, you know, a couple hours, or maybe it was overnight, I don't know. But I would leave it for a couple of hours. And then you just squeeze out as much water with your hands as you can. Try not to wring it or twist it tightly or anything like that. And then you just kind of shape it nicely on a towel and let it dry. And when I say shape it, I do actually mean you're going to take some time and like pull up on the bobbles a little bit to kind of make them a little rounder, because when you get them all wet, they might get kind of, you know, squished looking. And then if you let it dry that way, it's just going to stay like that. So this is your chance. It's very moldable when you have a damp cowl, and you can kind of pull up on all these little bobbles and make them stick out. And then you can also kind of arrange your cables like this and sort of pull these apart a little so you can see that little space between them. It just makes it look a little bit nicer if you actually take the time to kind of do that. And I know that might seem weird, especially if you know, you're letting it dry on a towel. So you really can only sort of do that to one side and then put a fan on it or something. And when it's mostly dry on the top side, then you can flip it over and then repeat the process to the other side as well. And if you miss some, if you have to leave or something like that and it gets dry, you can always use a little bit of steam to kind of help reshape things. You can steam it a little, like from your iron, hovering it above. Don't ever touch your fabric with that. Just steam it a little and then kind of shape it with your hand and then let it cool off in that, in that form. And then it'll kind of help it keep its shape. So you can see there's a difference here between the two cables. These are much crisper. You can see the little spaces between the cables. The bobbles stick out really nicely. Also, the way that the fabric feels. This has a lot more wiggly drape to it. This is not as wiggly. This is the stiffer feeling. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but it's not. This one just is a little bit drapier. Also, it feels softer on your skin as well. So that seems to help a lot too with these types of wools. All right. Well, it looks like I have answered all my questions. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I love teaching these live tutorials. And like I said, if you have suggestions for future things you'd like to see, whether it's techniques or certain types of projects, I would like to know what you guys think. I oftentimes get inspired by things that you guys suggest. So put them in the comments and I'll check them out. So thanks you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Bye everyone.